Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice. And I am Knuckles the Echidna here, and we are back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze for the Nintendo Wii U/Nintendo Switch. So, last time, we have basically completed everything in terms of the first world in the game, which appears to be Lost Mangroves. Even though we did that world pretty good, there are a couple of times though we stumbled across into death situations from time to time, specifically while trying to find those remaining puzzle pieces, and on top of that, we did somehow tackle for the first temple level, and we did die a couple of times on that particular level. And in addition to that, we also managed to beat the first boss in the game. So yeah, today for this video is that we're going to be continuing things on throughout the game by experiencing the second world in the game, known as Autumn Heights. So obviously it's going to be filled to the brim with a lot of tricky stuff from time to time, but I'm sure we'll get this, or we got this, whatever. So because of that, here we go on to World 2-1, Windmill Hills. So obviously this place is going to be filled to the brim with windmills on this particular stage. So yeah, with that being said, let's dive right into this, shall we? Yeah, especially concerning for the fact that it's been about 5 days ago since we've last played this game, because after all, like what Ray has already explained about this ever since in Super Mario Bros. Wonder Let's Play so far. Oh yeah, before we get into more details onto this though, you see that barrel as we've carried right here? Well, we need to use that to able to actually access the first bonus area on this particular stage. So, just in case you don't able to miss this out, if you really want to go for a 100% completion, so everything else will become to expect. So, anyways though, as far as what Ray the Flying Squirrel has already mentioned about this earlier, well, during the course of the Super Mario Bros. Wonder Let's Play so far, well, recently you already know for the fact that we're going to be tackling through 3 Nintendo Switch games at the start of the forms of 2024 so far. Like, we're still in the process of the forms of this game right here, and Ray the Flying Squirrel, he's already working on Super Mario Bros. Wonder, as you probably already know, and recently, both Silver the Hedgehog and Pac-Man are already working on the, WarioWare Get It Together. So because of that, I wonder if it's possible we can able to actually do even more Nintendo Switch games Let's Plays during the course of in 2024 or anything else like that. But who knows, because obviously no matter what though, we've almost finishing up the majority of the franchise at this point in time, specifically that we still need to able to consider to be planning to able to do Wario Land the Shake Dimension or something like that, because obviously we didn't get a chance to do it from the likes of it last year due to the forms of quite a number of Let's Plays we have done in during the forms of in 2023, like for example with Donkey Kong 64, Sonic Frontiers, and as well as Sonic Origins, Super Mario All-Stars, and you name the rest of it though. So anyways though, and right from the start though, as you can tell, we've somehow already obtained another 2 puzzle pieces on those specific windmills due to specific collectibles we need to grab. So yeah, it seems very obvious for the standard stuff though, Sonic, every once in a while. When it comes to likely you have to collect every single collectibles once you're able to actually activate the puzzle piece to appear. So anyways though, now if you couldn't tell already about the fact that this is actually our second attempt for this recording session, nothing to do with the actual capture footage because it works no problem, thanks to the forms of our brand new laptop that we still managed able to get our hands on, but to be more specifically though, is that Knuckles is actually got a croaky throat right now, so because of that, he definitely needs to take it a bit too easy when it comes to able to commentate on, whilst I'm the only one who's going to be perfectly fine. So yeah, you might able to actually just able to realize about the fact that sometimes it just happens sometimes, Yeah, especially concerning for the fact that, geez Louise, the weather condition is ridiculously cold today. Well, mind you, about the fact that we're still on the first month in journey forms have been, 2024, as to be expected and stuff like that. So anyways though, so of course, as you probably already expect, that there are quite a few things we'd like to discuss. Is that, well, today's date is of course the 9th of January today, in some cases in 2024 today. There's quite a number of things we can able to actually address onto something. first of all, I've recently gone back into Sonic Dash recently, and because of that, we somehow managed to unlock the next character, which appears to be none other than Knuckles the Dread, based off from Sonic Prime. So as a result, no matter what though, I get the strong sense of feeling we might able to actually get ourselves some even more unlockable characters based off from Sonic Prime, all thanks to the forms of eventually at some point, until 2 days time, we're about to be able to see the whole entire episode selection for the sake of the forms of Season 3 of Sonic Prime. Now here's the thing about this though, is that much like Season 1 as well as Season 2, obviously the first ever episode on that season has already been aired earlier on in Journey forms of on YouTube. So because of that, yeah, it's pretty insane. They've managed to did this for the 3rd time for the sake of the forms of the majority of Sonic Prime as a result. Although, usually relatively speaking, I will admit though right away, we will not going to be able to mention any spoilers for the time being when it comes to the forms of the 3rd season of Sonic Prime for now. Well, that's just mainly because though, Sonic, is that despite the actual season has not been released just yet on Netflix for the time being, so yeah, unless if there was like, you know, 2 days for now until when that particular season is going to be finally get its release. So, and I think exponentially speaking though is about the fact that we're not exactly sure if the next season is going to be involved, but then again, no spoilers mentioning, so because of that, there's only like one episode so far, and unfortunately though, we've run out of time on that particular bonus stage, as you can tell, so you know what that means. It's time to sacrifice one of our extra lives. So because of that though, yeah, again, if you mess up in one of those bonus areas, then you have to able to take away your life, and then you have to able to restart that particular bonus area again. So, just like the advance of how it does it on Donkey Kong Country Returns after all. So, yeah, you get the idea for that point. So, anyways though, there's also another thing we would like to mention about this as well. We've only got about, presumably speaking, we've only just got about 9 more days to go until Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is going to be releasing on multiple platforms, including Nintendo Switch version as well. And one thing we did not expect, there's actually going to be a free demo that's going to be arriving on this Thursday. And because of that though, you should be able to try out the free demo version of the forms of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. So just in case you can able to try to practice the forms of how the gameplay mechanics worked, as well as controls, and you name the rest. Well, mind you, we still need to wait for other Nintendo games up to this point. To be more specifically, Mario vs. Donkey Kong Remake, as well as Princess Peach Showtime, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, and even especially with Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door Remake on the Switch. And maybe some other more Nintendo stuff that will be planned for the sake of the forms of not only The Last Horizon to the forms of Nintendo Switch's lifespan or something like that, potentially speaking, but also with the forms of the brand new Nintendo system that hopefully it should be able to get revealed at some point soon. Well, depending on the forms of when exactly is it going to be able to be revealed at some point. So, who knows though, Sonic, because obviously we're still at the beginning portion of the year, of course, so sometimes it takes a bit of time. So, and also when you stand on these platforms right there, it tends to crumble and you have to get out of there before you don't fall off or anything else like that. So hopefully we'll grab some more of those usual bananas, as well as the forms of the actual banana coins and all that stuff, and we need to ring the bell 4 times so we can able to reveal, what else? Another puzzle piece. So, yeah, relatively speaking though, everything else will be pretty much accounted for the sake of the forms of how the progression goes, you know? And I think, kind of thinking about it though, I think we're almost nearly at the end of a level actually, although apart from the fact that there might be a couple of times that we might screw up at one point, to be more specifically with this unexpected appearance for one of those important plot MacGuffins or collectibles, whatever you want to call it, but either way though, that's saying something I suppose. So yeah, there's also another thing I would like to mention about this as well, is that potentially speaking though, unfortunately though, well, for the sake of time though, is about the fact that recently, you've already noticed for the fact that obviously Cap King 74, he keeps on like continue playing Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, which as a result he did a really good job on that, except for one particular part in mind, is that obviously that he once again stumbled across into copyright issue for the sake of the forms of certain portions of the playthrough so far. To be more specifically though, Sonic, one of those examples is that when he goes into Halloween Town, and then he discovers about the fact that he did come across into not one, not two, but 3 copyright sections in one of those moments in Journey Forms of the Halloween Town. And the reason being for this is because, well, one of those familiar songs in particular called This Is Halloween, mind you, for the fact that Sonic is that it's all instrumental version, despite the fact that you can able to actually just, you know, hear that familiar theme, apart from the fact that there's no lyrics or vocals or anything else like that. But aside from that, I just have no idea why. They just keep on like sending him a lot of copyright problems. So, but either way, no, Knuckles, is about the fact I don't think it's not going to be possible for us to able to actually tackle for a Kingdom Hearts game anytime soon, just because of all that ridiculous copyright problems. So, but that's just me. Even though, as you can tell, despite the fact that we've lost Diddy Kong, but that's just mainly because we did somehow miss the G on the first attempt on that particular cannon shot, or the barrel cannon shot. But, you know, we did somehow claim the G after all for our second attempt on that particular ending section, so it should be all alright. So, anyways, now let's move on to level 2-2, Mountain Mania. So, yeah, relatively speaking, though, is about the fact I get this strong feeling we might able to actually just to climb onto the top of the mountain of the forms of that particular Autumn Heights itself. Well, at least to be more specifically in Journey Forms of the World map itself. So, that's kind of interesting to say the least. So, and also something tells me we might able to actually bump into that familiar Animal Buddy, for those of you if you ever played the previous Donkey Kong Country games, including Donkey Kong Country Returns. So here we are, we've met again with the forms of Rambi, the Rhinoceros. So, obviously he plays exactly like the forms of how it does it since in Donkey Kong Country Returns. He can still able to jump, and on top of that, once you're trying to able to, well, hop onto him, you can able to actually just to like, you know, ram into enemies, including with the forms of certain obstacles, including with the forms of the specific blocks, as you can tell. Well, mind you, we have to ignore those blocks, because obviously we need to go after the K, of course. So, potentially speaking, it's about the fact that you can also just perform a bit of a stomp with Rambi until you're able to actually find specific secrets, like this bonus area right there. And, of course, you can able to actually just go ahead and mash the button to make him go faster. So, whilst unlike in Donkey Kong Country Returns, you have to constantly shake the Wii remote in order able to actually just to like make him run faster, whilst thankfully on the 3DS version, that's all replaced by button controls, which that could be also applied onto the original Wii U version of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, and exponentially that could be also applied for the Switch version as well. So, at least assuming if depending on what control scheme you're able to use. So, that's as far as I was expecting, so. Anyways though, there's also another thing I want to mention about this as well, is that, although, since no matter what though, it's about the fact that, relatively speaking though, until by that time, until 2 days time, that we're also going to be able to realize that we're about to able to celebrate the 5th year anniversary of one of those games releases, which appears to be New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. So, yeah, we were expecting to able to try and mention more about it, or perhaps even maybe that Raid the Flying Squirrel could possibly able to mention more about it once he goes back on to Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So, that's what I was expecting for that point too. So, anyways though, and we've already on about it ever since in a couple of days ago at this point, so. Anyways though, speaking of something Mario related, there's one thing we totally forgot to mention about, including buddy forms of both Pac-Man and Silver the Hedgehog as well, that we've recently got not only 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 Super Nintendo game cartridges from the sake of the forms of how the fact that recently both me and Knuckles have recently went into shopping just recently. And because of that, we somehow got not only Super Mario World, but also Super Mario All-Stars, the 1993 Super Nintendo version with its cartridge version this time, because the last time we actually had that game, cartridge version-wise, was back during the Phones event in 2017, believe it or not. That is whenever we were able to actually sell that particular cartridge version of the game, just because we ended up trying to save up for getting the Nintendo Switch, along with the forms of other Nintendo Switch games as well, including with the forms of not only Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but also with Super Mario Odyssey, and many others as well, so yeah, I digress. Ah, jeez Louise, I totally forgot this thing is about to crumble! Ah, I didn't pay attention to the surroundings. But oh well, at least we already got the checkpoint from, for a second ago right there. But either way, oh yeah, much like the forms of how it does it on Donkey Kong Country Returns, basically, if you come across into a big drum, you have to able to, like, you know, hand slap the actual drum for about 3 times, or even stomp on it 3 times for Rambi's sake. Because basically though, once you've done it for 3 times, then obviously you can able to continue your progressioning, so... But either way, that's as far as saying goes. Oh yeah, there's also another thing I want to able to mention about this as well, before we continue discussing upon which other Super Nintendo cartridge games that we've somehow got. Well, potentially speaking of, is about the fact that there's also quite a number of things that's been happening. Like, for example, Sonic the Hedgehog will be back on McDonald's for the sake of the forms of the UK country. And because of that, though, I think it's gonna behave exactly like the forms of how it does it on most McDonald's Happy Meal stuff nowadays, for the UK version anyway. We ended up trying to able to have ourselves the cardboard inserts instead of, like, plastic toys, so... Not exactly sure why they somehow ditched that system nowadays, which is especially noticeable concerning for the fact that, actually kind of thinking about it though, Sonic, is that I remember back in 10 years ago that we did somehow manage to able to got, well, the Happy Meal McDonald's toys back in 2014. Oh yeah, just because of that particular Super Mario toys lineup back then, which is especially noticeable concerning for the fact that we are a huge die-hard Mario fan, especially concerning for the fact that Mario is the most iconic video game character of all time, as you probably already expect. And I remember back then that we've almost got every single one of them for the 2014 lineup, although apart from the fact that we actually got a couple of them, like, I think if I recall correctly, we got the ones with the forms of Yoshi, Toad, Luigi, the Super Mushroom that does, like, unique sounds, and aside from that, that's as far as I can think about it. Although apart from the fact that we are missing 2 of them, like you've already said this earlier, Sonic, like we've missed out Donkey Kong with the barrel, which I think it actually shows us the actual, I don't know, like a silhouette shape for its spotlight or something, and finally with the forms of Mario, just did the actual, like, well, a pose, and that's all there is to really think about it, so... But still, we've gone pretty close to that particular collecting all the toys back then, so yeah, that was what I was thinking about anyway. So anyways, let's move on to level 2-3, which appears to be Horn Top Hop. So I think something tells me we might come across into those horns as the level obstacles, so pretty interesting for its level concepts, all things considered. Also, I don't suppose if you noticed, but the major differences between the forms of both the Switch version alongside with the Wii U version of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, as far as I've realized, is that the actual shape of Donkey Kong's nose shapes a little bit more differently. Well, depending on what version of the game you play through. Like, for example, I've noticed on the Wii U version that it's kind of hard to see Donkey Kong's nose is clearly visible, whilst in the Switch version did somehow manage to have ourselves a different nose design for Donkey Kong anyway. So, relatively speaking, I was about the fact I found it was a little bit of a strange change to it. Well, there's also another thing is worth noting for is that in the idle animation, well, if you manage to stand completely still, once you're able to actually just decide able to, like, imagine if you're trying to make your sandwiches or cup of tea or anything else like that, you might able to realize is that I'm pretty sure that on the original Wii U version of the game, basically though, if you let Donkey Kong go into its idle animation, basically he plays the Nintendo 3DS, if I recall correctly, usually for the sake of the forms of the 3DS XL, whilst meanwhile on the Switch version, as the version we're currently playing for right now, just because of this familiar button icons as you see on the actual the gauge right there, and because of that though, instead of playing on the 3DS XL, Donkey Kong is actually playing the actual Nintendo Switch. So, pretty interesting change, kind of think about it though. Especially concerning for the fact that at this point in time, that the Nintendo Switch is doing super duper well. Yeah, that speaks for itself, especially concerning for the fact that at this point in time, that I could imagine for the fact that it's almost going to be able to, you know, almost caught up with the forms of not only the Nintendo DS sales numbers, but also say applies with the PlayStation 2 sales numbers for time to time. But still, we'll find out some more details about that specific updates for its Switch sales numbers until maybe at some point in next month they're able to actually address something. So hopefully though we should able to find out some more details on the forms of some new softwares being added, like for example with WarioWare Move It, as well as Super Mario RPG Remake, and all that stuff. The only one is not going to be included on the other hand so far is going to be another code recollection, just because, well, at some form or another, that we've only just got about 10 more days to go until another code recollection is going to be releasing, alongside with the forms of The Last of Us Part 2 remastered for the PlayStation 5. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy to able to notice about the fact that we're about to be having ourselves almost the entire The Last of Us games up to this point for the PlayStation 5. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy, you know? Anyways, back into what we were saying about the forms of how the fact that we somehow got the Super Nintendo cartridge games. Well, nothing to do with like playing with them, because obviously we've already technically played them on the forms of the Super Nintendo Classic Mini, due to the forms of how good the quality is. And on top of that, runs pretty smoothly with 60 Hz the entire time. And usually, relatively speaking though, I just love collecting those specific Mario game cartridges, likely also from like, you know what I'm talking about, with most popular ones, including by the forms of specific franchises that we always enjoy, like for example with Mario, Donkey Kong, and Kirby, The Legend of Zelda, and Metroid as well. So potentially speaking though, that's all there is to really think about it. So, and speaking of which though, is about the fact that I've already mentioned about this earlier, that I somehow managed to get myself the Super Nintendo cartridge version of Super Mario World, just because I just want to complete my entire 2D Mario physical game collection. And not only that though, it is still, as without a doubt, one of my favorite 2D Mario games I've ever played, along with the forms of Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Super Mario Bros. 3, but that's just me. And in addition to that, we also got Super Mario All-Stars, specifically the standalone version, because we were originally trying to able to get both of those games in a double pack in a singular cartridge, but I will admit though, the pricing is a bit high for me. And in addition to that though, is about the fact that I just love seeing the actual proper artwork for specific cartridges to me. Although don't get me wrong, it is pretty cool that we can able to have the option to go for not only the separate releases of Super Mario World alongside with the forms of Super Mario All-Stars, but also that I don't know about you, because it's been about quite a few hours since we've last mentioned something relates to that, especially concerning for the fact that at this point in time, that I think fundamentally speaking though, is about the fact that we were attempting to able to, oh jeez, that was quite nerve-wracking, especially that I've accidentally ran into that particular spinning soul enemy right there, but at least potentially we've already got that particular puzzle piece, and come on! Oh, we were so close during that time, especially concerning for the fact that I just realized we ended up inside the actual horn itself, which, as a result, we will try to able to actually just to like go all the way up to the top of that particular the horn itself, which obviously leads us to the goal. So, kind of interesting thing to notice right from the get-go. So, anyways though, There's also another thing I would like to mention about this as well, is that, potentially speaking of, is that, it looks like that we're about to be able to gain ourselves the yet another, playable character at some point in Journey forms the Sonic Forces Speed Battle. And as it turns out, it is going to be yet another character. This is actually based off from Sonic Prime, and as a result, it's going to be Grim Sonic from the likes of the forms of Sonic Prime. And that usually takes place in somewhere in the Grim, but then again, let's not get ahead of ourselves, especially concerning for the fact that, again, no spoilers for the sake of the forms of the majority of, the third season as of now, especially concerning for the fact that, like we've already established that before, we've only just got about 2 more days to go until that particular season is about to get to its release. Now, I will admit though right away is that I'm actually really looking forward to it though, while unlike the forms of how it does in on My Little Pony Make Your Mark, that I felt a little bit more of a expectations is a bit far low for the sake of the forms of that series to me, but that's just the way how I feel about it. So, anyways, let's move on to level 2-4, Sawmill Thrill. So, obviously, we're about to go into a minecart level, as far as I can definitely recall that. But before we continue our progressioning, though, there's a secret onto the left, which obviously leads us straight onto the puzzle piece right there. So, of course, we're able to get 5 puzzle pieces, so we're able to try our best to able to actually nap them all in the forms of that particular run. So, well, it's all depending on the forms of how tricky these levels are. But hopefully, though, Sonic will easily get this, so yeah, I know that. So, there's also another thing I wanted to mention about this as well, is that I believe until, at some point, if I recall correctly, jeez, I somehow accidentally ran into that saw blade by mistake. Oh, this is interesting. We somehow get ourselves a cool transition to, the minecart all the way up to the boat. So yeah, that's actually quite a cool thing in mind, especially concerning for the fact that as far as I've realized, we ended up in the water part right there, so... Oh no, there's an end right there! Oh jeez, I might as well be back for that later, because obviously not only we've got the next puzzle piece, but also there's going to be a bonus area somewhere just about after the that particular log that we have to jump over to, so... Jump at that point, and then that way you should be able to go into that bonus area, so... I felt a little bit bad for able to actually ditch not only Diddy Kong, but also with Dixie Kong as well, but that's just mainly because we just keep on getting hit by certain things most of our time, especially concerning for the fact that we keep on finding some more puzzle pieces and all that stuff, so... Yeah, to be expected though, Knuckles, it always attempts to happen every single moment's notice, so... But either way, we did somehow manage to complete that particular bonus area. Now, I'm actually going to have to take a life away, just because I don't want to activate that checkpoint, because I'm still concerning to trying to get an N, so... Yeah, I was fault about that, Sonic, especially because, again, we need to get all of the con letters this time around though, whilst unlike the previous games, specifically the Super Nintendo games, that all it really goes for is just extra lives and that's it, whilst unlike in Donkey Kong Land, basically though it just gives you the ability to save your game, so, well, assuming of course if you need to finish the level first, so... Even though I did somehow, despite I got hit, but that's okay, because we somehow got an N anyway, and of course we got our heart back, so I want to mention about the fact that, well, although we're probably not going to mention about this right now, just because we still on the forms of the second world in the game anyway, so who knows, we might have to be able to just save that topic for later, so thus you might able to realize about the fact I have to concentrate really hard on these specific stages like these ones, because again, they're just pretty much a test of patience anyway, especially that, you know, timing is key if you couldn't tell. Well, obviously I have to sure able to say that, but that's that puzzle piece right there that I somehow missed. I suppose we might as well take another death anyway, so... But that's okay, because we got so many extra lives. Gee, no wonder why that we're about to be getting a lot of extra lives in the earliest point of the actual playthrough so far. Or even the entire game, as a matter of fact. Just because, you know what I mean about the fact that this game is going to be a lot more tougher than the forms of how it does it on Donkey Kong Country Returns. That's just for my personal thing about this anyway, so... But at least potentially speaking though, Sonic, is that, that this is actually the first ever Nintendo game to dish out the forms of that particular Super Guide feature, which we've already addressed that, Knuckles, ever since during the forms of the beginning portion of this particular game anyway, so... Although, despite the fact that it continues that tradition for certain ports or remasters in general, like for example with New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, or anything else like that, so... But either way, we somehow fully completed that. But that doesn't stop there, on the other hand, Knuckles. It's that, potentially speaking though, this level does contain not only one exit, which we've already done, but 2 exits. So, potentially speaking though, we've somehow got the normal exit, so now we need to go back in there again to find the secret exit. And I think, potentially speaking though, it's actually at the very end of the level. So, yeah, we can pretty much get out to find out, no problem. So... Anyway, as far as what I was trying to say about the forms of how the fact that yes, Grim Sonic is going to be appeared during the course of any Sonic Forces Speed Battle game. And as a result, for what I've double checked on the forms of their status, in terms of the forms of Grim Sonic, his stats actually just somehow got like, for speed gets like 9 out of 10, acceleration was 7 out of 10, and strength wise is actually 5 out of 10. And in terms of items they've got, he's got Grimions, which I'm not exactly sure what that's about. Create an army of robot minions which run forward and explode on impact, slowing down your opponents to the max. So that's as far as I was thinking about it anyway. And in addition to that, there's also Electro Boost, and that pretty much puts a little zap in your running. Attracts rings and zaps opponents as they drop items. And finally, Crossed Wires, which shocks your rivals with a sudden spark that appears in front of them. So, yeah, that's kind of an interesting item selection as far as he somehow got. And yeah, that's as far as I can think about it. And I think it's about to start during at some point recently today. So, however, it's going to be ending until at some point on the 16th of this month. So, yeah, you might have to hurry this up, despite the fact that we somehow still give up on that game, just because of how aggressive certain players are around the world, similar to the forms of how it does it for Mario Kart Tour. Well, mind you, no matter what though, I think this is where the point where it comes to going back into Mario Kart Tour, that we've slowly giving up on that game, mainly because of bad controls, like we've already established that before, and pretty much everything else for that resides. So, anyways, go down here, and this is where we find the secret exit just about... Oh, are you kidding me? We were so close to able to get onto the next railing. Ah, maybe because the timing needs to be so accurate with that jump. Ah, jeez, I was not expecting with that specific precision jump. But that's okay, because, you know, we got a load of extra lives. However, the maximum capacity you can only get up to, much like the previous games, is still a maximum of 99 lives. So, yeah, that's to be expected. However, though, Knuckles, is that much like the forms about... Ah, you kidding me? Oh, jeez, we have to not make that same mistake again. But hopefully, though, Sonic, we're able to try to make this for the 3rd time lucky, but we shall see. So, yeah, I suppose that's what I can really say about that particular playable character is going to be on the horizon. Oh, you never believe what's going to happen in the forms of at some point in the future, I should say. They're about to be bringing a horror movie from the sake of the forms are based off of Mickey Mouse. Don't believe me? Well, I'm sure there's a lot of articles out there that, yes, another one of those, the main horror movies is going to be on the horizon, which not only we're about to be getting the sequel to Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, which I was not expecting that. In addition to that, there's also going to be a new film called Mickey's Mousetrap, and oh god, what were they thinking? And of course, we can never forget Bambi, The Retconning, and finally Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. Seriously, whoever thought that was a good idea to able to bring horror versions of specific Disney movies or something? Like, I've got no words. I seriously have got no words to describe those. But either way, let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, I think we're about to do one more level for this video. So in some cases though, let's go into level 2-5, Alpine Incline. So, I believe something tells me we might able to actually bring, well, let's just hope that we'll bring Dixie Kong into this level, because obviously we have not seen her since the third level on this world, despite the fact that we accidentally kick her out, thanks to the forms of certain enemies that we keep on running into, so... And actually kind of thinking about it though, Knuckles, is that for what I've noticed on the actual super guide for certain video games in the past, that it did somehow begin ever since in 2009, since in during the forms of New Super Mario Bros. Wii, but then until after 4 years, that specifically with super guide features, in addition with assist things, like for example assist items, that it only lasted for about 4 years. Likely also starting from 2009 all the way up to 2013, I just realized. Oh, what makes you say that? Because since that we've now got Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, including Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and even with Super Mario Odyssey, and pretty much any other games for that matter, that they somehow managed able to ditch the forms of not only super guides, but also with the forms of assist blocks as well. So meaning about the fact that they somehow managed to go for a different direction when it comes to the forms of toning the actual balanced difficulties, when it comes to likely not only for its menu selections, but it's also about the fact that with specific character traits. So yeah, it seems pretty interesting change nowadays, so I'm guessing that makes it totally obvious, because I remember back then that when you've managed able to struggle for certain levels, like for example in New Super Mario Bros. Wii, I remember back then that we were aiming for a true 100% completion, with not only with 5 stars, but you were begging for the sparkle effects. But then, I remember back then that you've got ticked off about the fact that the super guide actually appears, and because of that, we've lost our sparkle effects. So, well, that's mainly because though, Knuckles, is that I wasn't really sure about what the super guide feature actually works. So, but even then, no, I'm guessing for the sake of the forms of how the fact that not only it just completes the level for you, but it's also about the fact that, well, it doesn't give you potentially giving you like the best satisfying reward if you managed able to go for this feature. So, but either way though, oh yeah, I should also mention about this as well, in addition about the fact that we've already mentioned about this before, not only we somehow got those 2 games on the Super Nintendo cartridge games, as we've already mentioned this earlier, we also got ourselves Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo cartridge version now, and finally, most notably, Donkey Kong Country, the original game, for the Super Nintendo cartridge version. So, just in case for sure, that for those of you probably wondering, yeah, we're still on 2024 of course, that the original Donkey Kong, dang it, I did not notice that spinning propeller stuff actually hurts me. Oh jeez, what were they thinking? Anyway, you already know about the fact that the Donkey Kong Country game on the Super Nintendo game, you know, with the first game and it turns the forms of the Donkey Kong Country game series, is that the first game is going to be eventually become 30 years old this year, so it might be a special tribute for able to actually celebrate the game's release since in 1994. So that'll be a pretty good coincidence to able to actually get ourselves the Super Nintendo cartridge version of that game. So, and as far as Super Mario Kart is concerned, well, I'm happy to report that we somehow got every single physical Mario Kart games now. So, I'm very satisfied with that, especially I love Mario Kart so much, with only one exception, which is of course Mario Kart Tour, just because, you know, it's filled to the brim with microtransactions, but who knows. So, I believe back there, whenever we go through those balloons, basically it just gets us into the next bonus area, so... And in fact, this particular bonus area right there is actually pretty cool, that we have to able to go back and forth with those barrel cannon shots, so just in case you can able to collect the rest of the remaining of those bananas, as you can tell. But oh no, we got that no problem, so too easy, piece of cake. And I think that was about it for this level, so yeah, no missing puzzle pieces just yet, until specifically the later stages to come. because again, finding those puzzle pieces is going to be a lot more difficult, so... But at least we got that particular 1-up balloon, despite the fact that we've already maxed out, so... Yeah, like we've already expected at that point, so... Anyways though, so with that being said though, is that we got the endings of this point right here, so join us next time for more of Let's Play of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, is that we're going to be able to finish up everything for the sake of the Forms of Autumn Heights, to able to not only, you know, play through the levels, but also complete the second temple level and defeat the second boss. So we'll see you guys until on Thursday. Later, fellas.